Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of A Worm's Eye View. I am Thatcher, and joining me, as always, is...
Tim.
And today, for episode 3, we are doing 1995 Seven, which was randomly chosen by our wheel and as our drama/thriller movie.
A lot of shit has happened since episode 2, hasn't there? For you 3 listeners out there. So we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, and we are also on Instagram.
Yep, and there's links to actually get to the episodes because we're being hosted on Sounder FM at the moment. So,
That we are.
So when we started this adventure, I wanted to get to like 5 episodes before we had like a good catalog to be able to start distributing to people. And Tim was like really itching to go right off the bat because he thought we had something good here, and I think we do too. As we've alluded to in episode 1 and 2, we sent it to family, thinking that if anybody had your back, it would be family. God, were we wrong. So
Well, they support us. They support us doing this.
Yeah,
but they don't support us with their ears.
Yeah.
So they're the male of this relationship.
Tim was finally like, I think random people would listen to this more than our family would. So after Top Gun, he convinced me to start distributing it. And yeah, we actually have had some people listen to it. We've had a couple of viewer requests.
We have some listener requests.
And so we thought like, all right, yeah, well, instead of doing our random at the end and beginning of every Serpentine, maybe that's when we'll throw in a listener request.
Yeah.
Got to do a huge shout out to Dwayne Mann, who did the graphic for the podcast.
Yeah, we have a graphic now.
Yeah, so Tim can draw a little bit. I cannot draw at all. And he was like, what do you think of this? And he had like a worm and a shot glass. And I was like, maybe we reach out to Dwayne Mann and see if he can help us.
And I had no idea. Yeah, and he did a fantastic job. He took everything that was inside our heads within, I think we sat with him for what, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
And he sketched in front of us what we were thinking in our heads, and I kind of worked with him a little bit about doing some things, and man, did he produce an excellent product for us.
And it was just so cool to watch his brain work because we kind of gave him the concept that, yeah, we want a worm in a shot glass watching TV. And he's like, all right, what if I put some salt next to it and I tipped over a shot glass and a little wormy
snail trail
leading through the salt. And then I'll put a movie poster up on the wall. I consider myself pretty adept with the Adobe Suite software. But he put together a Photoshop file that makes it so I literally just have to click here, click there, and be able to change the title and movie poster for every episode. He even included instructions. Here, dumbass, this is how you do it. So if you ever need any graphic work, whether it be like something on the side of your truck, or like he could do wood carving, metal engraving, or something digital like Adobe, please check him out. He is a personal friend and a friend of the show, and you can see.
And he does awesome work.
He really does, yeah. He's really easy to work
Thank you, Dwayne Mann.
Thanks, D-Man. We also got some feedback from some listeners, now that we have some listeners, that they don't like us front-loading all the trivia at the beginning of the movie. They said you need to get into the plot a little bit quicker. So, hey, if you listen and give us feedback, we will listen.
Sure, yeah, and I'll work on Sounder, seeing if there's a feedback section.
Yeah, something like that.
Because if you're listening, we appreciate you, and we would even more appreciate how we can make the experience better for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if please like, subscribe, tell a friend, spread the word,
spread the worm.
And it just help us make this show better. And if you don't like it, that's okay too. If you're going to leave a nasty comment, at least be clever about it. Make us laugh when you're insulting us. That's all I ask. If you're clever about it, I'll read it on air, but at least be clever when you're being devastating.
Much appreciated.
Now, Tim, you've seen this movie before this recording?
I have, yes.
Okay. Any special memories at any times you had seen it?
No. Just the only thing I recollect from this prior to reviewing it for the podcast was the end scene. But nothing that strikes a chord.
Yeah, the end scene is certainly famous, kind of like Sleepaway Camp. If you've seen that movie, that's all you really have to talk about is the ending.
Yeah.
And so for me, I actually do. It was the first time I saw this, so I'll make a long story a little bit shorter, but my dad traveled for work, and his main office was in Philadelphia, but every now and then he had to go somewhere cool, like Hawaii or South Africa. Well, one time he had to go to Minneapolis, Minnesota.
That's not cool.
It's not cool. Well, it's cold, but it's not cool. And so my family wanted to join him because of the Mall of America.
Okay.
And as you can imagine, I was doing the math. I was 7 or 8 at this time.
Okay.
And I did not.
2001.
And so I did not want to go. So my mom was like, okay, you obviously can't stay home alone. If you can find somebody to take you, you don't have to go. And so I looked around, and my Uncle Billy said, yeah, I'll take you for the weekend. Why not? He never had kids and like still plays PlayStation and Nintendo to this day. He's a cool guy. So we went to the video store, and he's like, oh, this looks good, and picked up Seven.
You can always count on Uncle Bill for an adventure.
That's right. The very Seven we are about to review. So fortunately, as a 7-year-old, we come back to his apartment and pop it in. I think I was asleep before the credits came on, because that's what you do as a kid. Like, you just pass out on the couch. And I remember at the end of the movie, he was like, so did you like it? And I'm like, yeah, there was parts that was a little bit slower. He's like, you're so full of shit. You were asleep the entire time. I'm like, no. He's like, trust me, if you had been awake through this movie, you'd have some questions or something.
Yeah, for sure. A 7-year-old would be asking questions.
Yeah, and so I didn't think two things out.
That's crazy. It's not you were 7 years old when you saw Seven.
Yeah, it wasn't, super memorable to me at that point in time. Fast forward a few years later, again, I'm back at the Walmart DVD bargain bin where I picked up Halloween and probably Top Gun. And I was like, oh, Seven, I should pop this flick in. I remember falling asleep to this with Uncle Billy. And so I think I was probably like 13, 14. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I am glad I fell asleep before this came on. Or
you would have had some nightmares.
I would have needed some therapy.
Yep.
So that's my story behind that one.
Okay, that's much better than mine.
Yeah.
And Thatcher, I believe you have the synopsis.
I do. We're going to skip trivia, but we're still going to cover synopsis, rating, and what the director has done. Two detectives, a rookie and a veteran, hunt a serial killer who uses the 7 deadly sins as his motives.
I mean, there's been serial killer movies, but not ones that have broached the topic of the 7 deadly sins. So yeah. I think this is a pioneer in serial killer films.
Oh, big time. And this, we'll get a little bit more into it later, but this movie really reminds me at times of Saw and Criminal Minds. Both have a lot to owe to this movie. It really kind of was the founder of those two ideas, for lack of a better term.
Do we have any words that are on the outside of the box?
We do. So one of our listeners out there still struggles with taglines.
You know who you are.
So she still argues with us of what a quote is versus a tagline. So Tim said, okay, how about it's the words on the box? So it's not something you might hear in the movie. It's the words written on the box. But the tagline for Top Gun was also stated in the movie. So good news for you. None of the taglines are quotes from this movie.
Perfect.
So, if you look at the DVD cover or the VHS cover, there will be the title of the movie. That's not a tagline. There will be the people who starred.
Or a quote.
There'll be the people who starred in the movie, not taglines or quotes.
Nope, just actors and actresses.
Might be the film studio who developed it. All the other shit you could count as like a tagline. So, I hope that narrows it down for you. So, this movie only has a couple. I'll read them for you. Long is the way and hard that out of hell leads up to light.
I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't know. Much like Mills, symbolism is lost on me.
Yes.
Detective Somerset is looking for a way out. Detective David Mills is looking for a way in. Now they're caught up in a game where the price of sin is death. 7 deadly sins, 7 ways to die.
Ooh.
That one's not bad. Yeah. And then my favorite. Let he who is without sin try to survive.
If you don't have sin, you're going to survive.
Well, 'cause it's a play on a Bible quote, though, right? Let he is who without
I
sin.
haven't read that book, but I heard they left it open for a sequel at the end.
And then this is rated R for grisly afterviews of horrific and bizarre killings and for strong language. And then it gets a little bit further detailed for the parental guide.
Okay.
It says, couples kiss, no nudity. That's at 7 minutes and 34 seconds for Mr. Skin.
Don't you worry, I got it written down.
And then at 13 minutes and 34 seconds, an obese man's naked body is seen in an autopsy. His penis is briefly visible. But she was packing some heat. That was definitely CGI.
We'll get into it.
All right, so as you alluded to, this is directed by David Fincher.
Correct.
Who did, among other things, Gone Girl, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Fight Club, Alien 3, and pretty much every music video from the 1980s.
Yeah, so he's got some street cred.
He does.
And he seems to like Brad Pitt because he's used him a few times.
Who doesn't like Brad Pitt?
Angelina Jolie.
Well, now maybe.
What's the other one? He had that
Jennifer
blonde.
Aniston.
Oh my God! Talk about Mr. Skin.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, Brad Pitt's good. He's a little one note for me, but yeah,
Yeah, he can be. That list of movies, any of those you've seen stand out to you?
all of them. Fight Club, I think was the story was fantastic. I think the direction on it was good too. But out of all those, I would have to say Fight Club was probably my favorite.
Alien 3, what a turd that one was. But other than that, he has an impressive resume. On the shorter side, other than music videos, but impressive. As mentioned in our previous episodes, we recommend a drink pairing with every movie. So for this episode, I was thinking, as I was watching the movie, I was thinking something like a little darker, like maybe an old fashioned or some red wine, and then definitely settled on red wine because that actually comes up later on in the movie. I'll get to it when it gets there. So I would recommend Cabernet Sauvignon, which is a nice red wine. And if you've never tried Louis Martini before, somebody at Whole Foods actually was there and doing wine pairings, and they said, oh, if you've never tried this Louis Martini, they are known for their Cabernet Sauvignon. It's only $17.99 a bottle. I definitely don't want to get drunk off of red wine, though, because I've made that mistake before. So I'm only going to have a glass of red wine. And then in honor of world events, I'm going to switch to Corona. We are in the midst of coronavirus.
Thinking about drinks, there's only one that came to mind. I don't drink them, but I would suggest that this would be fun for you to do. A Bloody Mary. Drink
okay.
Bloody Marys
All
while
right.
you're watching this movie.
And we actually had a listener suggestion for a cocktail. 7 and 7. Seagram 7 and 7 Up.
Yeah.
Very clever. Well done to you.
So comment on Facebook on what you think a good drink pairing would be for this movie. You can also hit us up on Instagram and Twitter.
Without further ado,
Let's get into the plot,
let's get
my
into
friend.
the plot of this movie.
All right, so the opening of the movie is titled The Last 7 Days, if you look at the DVD cover or the insert inside.
Oh boy, now we're really going to add some confusion.
All
Maybe
right,
skip that.
you know who you are. Don't look at anything. Just put the movie in. So you see that it all starts with one of our main characters. This guy is one of my favorite actors of all time, just because I think he has a persona that he holds about him that is just fantastic. It's Morgan Freeman.
And that voice too.
Oh yeah.
Like, do you think he talked like that? And even like middle school was like,
Yeah, when he came out of the womb, he's like, "Mama."
Yeah, he had narrator voice.
He actually, if you remember when TomTom came out,
I have no idea what you're
so
talking
TomTom was something you bought for your car that you'd plug in and it would give you directions to where you're going.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like before Garmin.
yeah. Well, right around. Yeah, TomTom was like the launch.
Yeah,
or
which one
whatever.
still exists?
Shut up.
Yeah,
Garmin.
So the Betamax.
Yeah. But TomTom used to have, you could download Morgan Freeman voice to direct you to where you were going.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I knew somebody who had Darth Vader on theirs, and it knew when you were entering the highway, and it said "Prepare to enter light speed."
That's pretty cool. So Morgan Freeman is getting ready. It's apparent he's a cop. He's got these couple of things on his dresser. He's got one of them that I noted was a switchblade. He carries a switchblade with him.
Yeah, he has like his everyday carry setup, which I do the same thing. Like I've got where my wallet goes, my pocket knife, my keys.
I have my Leatherman, so I guess that's similar. He's getting ready in his pretty shambles apartment.
Yeah, what a shithole.
Yeah, but
This entire movie, I think,
filmed in shitholes.
yeah, and I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't call out the location. Like, what a perfect opportunity to take a shot at one city that you think is an absolute dump.
Well, you figure it out. You can in the middle of the movie, you know where they're at, where they're working out of.
Enlighten me.
New York City.
With the desert.
Well, no, we'll get into that. I have that written down.
All right, because there's no spoiler alert, but because
the end scene is taken in an effing desert, and they've only driven a half an hour. But this takes place in New York City.
You think so?
Yeah, they're New York City cops.
I didn't pick up on that. I was like, maybe Detroit, maybe.
It does have the feeling of Detroit.
But, all right, so you think did they have something on their uniforms or license plates?
I think it was when they were in one of the scenes. They were in the office, like the police headquarters.
Okay.
I saw NYPD.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you're more observant than I am.
I think we'll get into that.
Because I would be a shitty detective. Like I'd be like,
What? Oh, well, this is true because you don't like investigations.
Yeah, I don't. And I would just show up to one of these murders and just be like, who the fuck cares? Like,
They're dead.
Or there's times where at work, I know somebody's lying to me. Contractor, you'll go out there and they'll be like, oh, I never got that email. And you're like, bullshit, I have a read receipt. But I'm just like, whatever. It takes way too much energy to sit here and fucking fight with you. So that's how I would be as a detective.
So the next scene, we have a body that's kind of face down in blood. And there's some beat cops, I guess, because later on in the movie, the character Morgan Freeman and the other main character, they're called dicks. So dicks, I guess, is the generic term that PD use for detectives, I guess. So you've got some beat cops, and they're saying, oh, we heard a gun go off both barrels. And I'm like, yeah, okay, how could you tell one barrel versus two?
Yeah, the neighbor said they heard arguing, business as usual until a gun went off because they hear domestics all the time. Kind of like I have some non-violent domestics that I hear across the street. Like, I've told Tim some of the stories of, like, they'll get drunk and harmless stuff in the grand scheme of things. Just
come at me.
Yeah, one of them threw a big gulp. The female threw a big gulp at him and was like, come at me. And then he said, you get off your high horse. And if you've ever seen this couple, there is no way they could afford a horse. And if they did, it is not a high horse. I can tell you that.
That's the difference between rural New Hampshire and NY domestics. You get shot in NY and you just throw big gulps in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Then Morgan Freeman, he's investigating the body.
Why don't we use that character name? Somerset.
I don't think we know it at this point.
We don't, but okay. Morgan Freeman.
All right, fine.
No, Morgan Freeman.
I'll explain it. So sometime around this point in the movie, they tell us that Morgan Freeman's character's name is Lieutenant Detective Somerset.
Somerset, yeah.
We still don't know his first name at this point.
Not Sundown.
Not Sundown. Somerset. Because when the summer sets, it gets black and cold like winter. See, this movie's racist too.
Racism transpires from Top Gun to 7.
So he's a lieutenant detective, and his last name is Somerset. We don't yet know his first name. He's examining the body, and he sees like a picture on the wall and sees that they had a kid, and goes, "Did the kid see it?" And the beat cop flips out at him and was like, "What kind of stupid ass question is that? That's why I can't wait until you're fucking gone," you know? And
yeah.
To which, they're alluding at he's close to retirement, and that's a pretty reasonable question. Like, that guy is dead. He doesn't need any more care, but that kid could certainly use some psychological first aid if he saw mommy murder daddy. But what kind of fucking question is that?
Yeah, which, you know, a lot of this movie makes me, and of course it's Hollywood again, but it makes me think twice about how PD operate on scene. This is when our other main character arrives too, and it's Detective Mills, and this is played by Brad Pitt. You know, the heartthrob.
Yeah, with a mustache though, so a little less throbbier. Tim immediately goes to penis as Mr. Skin.
It was no throbbing for me at all. Yeah. I'm just putting that out there.
He's a good looking guy, but with the mustache, like, yeah, I think it takes a couple points off.
Okay.
But yeah, so he walks in and we find out he's Detective Mills, and he's a relatively rookie cop. This isn't his first day because I don't think you can start out as a detective.
No, you got to work. You got to cut your teeth.
Yeah, and B, he transferred here from another precinct or city, and later on, Somerset gives him a hard time. Like, why would anybody ask to come?
Right?
Here?
Yeah,
like, I can make a difference.
Yeah, Somerset even said, you know, Mills says I fought for this reassignment, so. You know, he obviously wanted to be new or be in this place.
Yep, and then a little quick piece of dialogue, we find out that Somerset is 7 days away from retirement.
Yep. So, and then this scene ends with Somerset in his bedroom, and this fella, talk about old school, he uses a metronome to fall asleep.
Yes, I wrote down that he is truly insane.
I don't know how you could do that.
Yeah, that would be the most maddening noise ever.
You think? That's like a raindrop on a piece of metal.
No, that sounds nice.
What?
Like in your camper? Oh, you sleep in a tent, though.
No, I pitch tents, but I sleep in my camper. No, I sleep in my camper, and I can hear it, but...
Rain on a roof, I think, is a soothing sound.
Yes, but I was thinking the drips that happen, like, in the... What's the shit? The gutters. Like the gutter when it Maybe
Yeah, it's a gutter. Yeah, you pointing down really helped our listeners too.
I'm not Italian at all, but when I do the podcast, I speak with my hands sometimes.
French do that too, right?
French,
I've heard.
I don't know. They just drop rifles.
Cheese-eating surrender monkey, says The Simpsons.
So then we cut into main titles, and it goes through who's involved in the movie and things like that.
Yeah, it's playing some creepy music and going through a montage
Yeah,
of
some
like,
crazy looking pictures.
of like what you could imagine a serial killer scrapbook looks like.
Yeah.
Like it just
Well, what's serial killer scrapbooks? You know what I mean?
apparently all of them. That's how they get caught. But yeah, it's pictures of dead bodies, Bible verses, blacked out eyes and faces, like some real creepy shit. Spoiler alert. Where if you've never seen this movie before, we do recommend that you go and watch it before you listen to this. But we know some of you might be a little creeped out by the subject matter and wouldn't want to watch it. So we're going to try to not spoil this. Like we'll leave the ending.
Scene by scene.
Yeah, we'll go scene by scene. I remember the ending, obviously.
Yep.
I remember gluttony and lust because those will burn into your eyes forever.
Pretty much.
But I also remember who the killer is played by. And I noticed that they were absent from the opening titles. And I was like, what the fuck? Do I remember this incorrectly? So I went and looked it up. They wanted to keep it a mystery who it was, though you never get to see his face until the ending. But they wanted to leave a little bit of mystery about who the killer actually was. So they didn't put him in the opening credits, even though he's an A-list celebrity. And they gave him double credits at the end to kind of make it up to him.
Right, pat him on the back.
But I did forget that R. Lee Ermey.
Oh, yeah, Gunny.
Yeah,
Gunny.
from
that
Full
he was,
Metal Jacket.
Yeah, that he was the police captain.
Yeah, I forgot he was in this movie. So
I didn't even remember that either.
I got excited when I saw his name.
Yeah,
And
he's
then
awesome.
John C. McGinley. I got excited when I saw that name too. He's been in a few things like Office Space, but I think people in The Rock. Yep. I think people probably remember him or recognize him from Scrubs, though. He's Dr. Cox on Scrubs.
Yep.
But yeah, he's an awesome actor. So I got really excited because I was like, holy fuck, I forgot about these people.
Yeah. No, and I forgot Gunny was in it too. All right, we cut to Monday, and we find Detective Mills in bed with said wife, who happens to be Gwyneth Paltrow. Mr. Skin arrives on scene.
Yeah, she is very pretty. I can't think of anything else that she's
could
been
be
in.
She could be in a vat of turd, and she would be pretty. She is. There's just something about her. She is beautiful, but yet very natural about herself. Yeah, very subtle. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's to me not like a smoke show. Not like she catches your eye.
It's her subtleness that makes her a smoke show.
Like, damn, but I would say she's got some classic beauty to her.
All right, that's the way to put it. Classy. She's classy.
Yeah, classic beauty.
Yeah, so they're in bed and there's all these freaking boxes all over this ratty looking apartment.
Yeah, i.e. they just moved here, but yeah, every apartment in this place is a dump.
Yeah.
And I saw something that said Seinfeld is New York City pre-Giuliani and Friends is it after Giuliani, because it's like white people sitting around drinking coffee and shit, where Seinfeld it was a little bit rougher. I mean, not quite Home Alone 2, which made me petrified of New York City as a kid. I was like, it's fucking criminals and creepy dove ladies and fish markets everywhere.
It's so funny that Home Alone 2 gave you a real impression, or made an impression on you of New York City.
Or it is Friday the 13th. Jason Takes Manhattan. These junkies stabbed this chick with a heroin needle.
Nothing's changed. That happens up here.
But so I will say, this is a bit of a tangent. When I was a kid, Dare just teaches you that people are going to get you high, right? Like, you watch out, somebody's going to attack you and they're going to get you high, right? And then they're going to get you hooked on drugs and you're like, oh my God.
Oh, Dare, the program Dare.
As a fifth grader, you're like, oh my God. Then you get into middle school, you're like, where the fuck's the drugs? Nobody gives that shit away for free.
Well, you get a sample. That's it. What?
No.
I got a sample once.
A roofie?
No. Who would roofie me? So there is a beat cop, as we would call it again. He's not a dick or a detective.
He is a dick, though.
Yeah,
or maybe an asshole.
No, he is, because...
Maybe we call the beat cops assholes and the detectives
assholes and dicks. All right, we'll do that. This beat cop is on the scene, and Mills shows up, and he says, hey, well, like I told you, I haven't touched anything, okay? And he's like, and then I have notes here about we haven't established what the time of death was. And I'm thinking to myself, beat cops don't do that. Detectives don't even do that. That's the coroner.
Yeah, medical exam.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, there's a hiccup in the movie. I thought,
yeah.
but it's just a New York cop. I haven't established the time of death.
Well, yeah, and then Mills walks in and he goes, "Who said this was a murder?" And Somerset says, "No one." But aren't they homicide detectives? So clearly somebody said this was a murder. Like this whole movie, it's not, you don't see them like, oh shit, there's another murder. Well, let me put down this bank fraud investigation I was working on.
Yeah.
Like they don't describe it, but I'm fairly certain that they're homicide detectives. But whatever. So Mills says, somebody phone Guinness. We've got a record here. And I think that was in reference to the guy's weight.
Correct.
Because there's a fat guy basically naked. Oh, I mean, maybe he is naked. I didn't notice. But he's not wearing a shirt. And he's face down in a plate of spaghetti, dead.
Very much.
And I think Mills is saying the record is how fat he is, which is hilarious because this is 1995 and now people are way fatter than this guy was.
Big time, yeah.
Like, this guy would not...
He was a big dude, but he wasn't...
Don't get me wrong, fat.
I've seen much worse.
Would not have qualified for my 600-pound life. They would have told him
right
to go away.
Right.
And so Mills gets a little bit closer and finds that his hands and feet are bound with barbed wire.
Ouch.
So... yeah, he probably didn't put those on himself.
Well, if he did,
yeah,
he's kind of strange.
So maybe that's why the asshole called the homicide detectives.
Dicks.
I don't know, though. Yeah, the dicks. I don't know, though.
So the only, there's a lot. This is one of the grosser scenes, I think, of the movie, just based on the visualness of Humpty Dumpty.
So we cut to the precinct, and this is R. Lee Ermey, the gunnery sergeant from Full Metal Jacket, who was actually really in the Marine Corps. That's how he got brought into that project. They brought him in as an expert to try to teach the actors how to be a Marine Corps drill instructor. And they're like, God, why don't we just hire you? You're fucking great. We find out a little bit later in the movie that he is the captain of the precinct.
And Somerset Mills and the captain are talking about the gluttony killing. And the captain's like, well, this man just ate until he burst? Because it appears that, his stomach contents were really full and basically he had a rupture.
We don't know it's gluttony at this point. We don't know about the deadly sins. But Somerset is convinced that it's not about the victim. It's about how he died and the torture about it. And he's convinced that this won't be the first person who dies either by this killer or this way. And he's like, yeah, this can't be my last case. Like, I give me something different. Give me a scammer at a ATM or something like that. This can't be my last case. And Mills is like, oh man, this is fucking great. I love this.
Give it to me. Yeah. Yeah. But I think Gunny says that the captain, he's funny. He's like, come on, this isn't the beginning of something. Somebody had a problem with Fat Boy and they just tortured him.
And then it cuts to them in the coroner's office, and their suspicions are confirmed that, yes, he did die by eating. All right, cuts to the next day.
We're at a press conference, and there is obviously somebody of significance has been murdered. And we find out that the defense attorney was killed.
Yeah, there's a newspaper headline that says, defense attorney killed in posh apartment. The DA, district attorney, is giving a press conference to the media. Mills goes through that and up to the apartment, and he's watching it on the TV from the apartment, and the district attorney says, I'm not going to discuss the details of the case, but we have our best men on it. And then
it's a brand new guy.
Yeah, not only is he the brand new guy, he walks in without any gloves, hairnet, booties, like Tyvek suit, picks up the remote, turns the TV on, and then sits in the guy's chair and kicks his feet up on the desk watching the news. I'm like, and then it does pan to, so next to there's a dead body slumped over on the floor, a pool of blood, and written in blood is greed. Word greed. And I was like, yeah, maybe irony or incompetence should have been written, because literally, as you say, we got our best guy on it. Mills is just like destroying this scene.
He absolutely is.
And were you familiar with the 7 deadly sins before this? Like, you religious at all? I don't want to make this a religion podcast, but
No, I'm not religious. But I was aware, even though the seven deadly sins aren't in the Bible, they're Christian teachings. But yeah, I was aware of them.
oh, okay. Because I got these mixed up with like the commandments. Because I was like
Because
sitting.
there's 10 and 7.
Yeah, I no, but I was like, all right. I was like, where's thou shalt not kill? And I'm like, wait a minute, that's a commandment. Because
Thou shalt not have greed.
yeah, because I've never been in church other than for funerals and weddings. I'm not. I consider myself to be an atheist, and a lot of people think like, oh, that means you hate God or you're an anarchist, and it just means like, no, I just don't believe in that. It's okay if you do, and then people will be like, oh, okay, I get it. So it means you're spiritual. I'm like, no, it means this occupies no percent of my brain or time. Like, I don't think about stuff like that. I believe in science, which is usually direct opposition of faith, and I don't think that we're special creatures. But I do find religion absolutely fascinating. I love learning about it because, like, later on in the movie, they talk about their 7 deadly sins, which I had heard of. But if you had said, I'll give you $1 million if you can name all 7 prior to watching this, no fucking way could I have done that. And then they said there's 7 cardinal virtues, and I was like, ooh! And I went and looked it up, and I was disappointed that it's literally the exact opposite
the opposites of
the sins. Yeah. So instead of gluttony, it's temperance, and instead of lust, it's chastity or something like that. So that was kind of disappointing. I thought there was going to be like 7 new vocab words.
Yeah, you can't use them.
Nope.
It's all the same.
But then there's a picture on the desk of the attorney, and I think it's his wife, and she's got blood around her eyes, like somebody drew in blood circles around her eyes.
Yep.
And then I don't know who it is, but somebody says that he was bled to death, the attorney. That's how he died.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Is he bled to death? I don't know if it was one of the assholes or one of the
dicks.
coroners or somebody, but somebody said, oh, that's how he died. He bled to death.
We're back at precinct, and the gunny, or the captain, is talking with Somerset, and they're talking about his retirement, so to speak. And this happens quite a bit in the fire service as well, and obviously it looks like it happens on the police side as well. And I won't go too far into this or dedicate too much time, but doing public service in the emergency services, PD and fire, is almost like a calling. It's not, you don't make a ton of money doing it. You have to put in a lot of hours, and it becomes your life, so to speak, for a lot of guys that choose that profession. And I think this scene calls to mind that particular point, where the captain is saying, hey, look, when you retire, you're not going to be a cop anymore. What is it going to be? Who are you going to be? And I think because it doesn't define me, but in the profession, I think it defines a lot of people that you're either, you're a firefighter or you're a cop. What are you going to do when you're done with this?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head as far as I think it's almost like a generational thing, because I'm the same way. This is what I do. It's not who I am. Like, I don't introduce myself to people as Captain Blant. Like, they'll be like, oh, you're a captain? I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't really mean anything.
Right.
But I remember in my previous job, there was a police officer who had just retired, and I witnessed a conversation between him and another very veteran police officer. He said, dude, how did you have the courage to retire? I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you just walk into the retirement office and said, I don't want to work anymore, but I still want the check. Like, what courage does
How hard is that?
What courage does that take? But yeah, the generations before us, definitely, this is who they are. It's not, I'm this person, and this is just what I do for 40 hours a week. It's like, this is who I am. This defines me. And when I'm no longer that, who am I? What am I?
So, he says to Somerset, you're not going to be a cop anymore. And Somerset's of the mindset that we are, and he goes, well, that's the whole freaking point.
What in the hell are you gonna do with yourself out there, Somerset?
Oh, I'll work. Maybe on the farm. Fix my house.
Don't you feel it? Don't you feel that feeling? You're not gonna be a cop anymore.
That's the whole idea.
But it's so funny in this scene too. And I'm trying to think back into 1995, but Somerset's using a typewriter to write his report. And I'm going, holy shit, I could not imagine doing the reporting that we have to do on a frickin' typewriter.
I saw that too, and I was trying to think too because I was 7 in 95, right? So I don't really remember, but there was not a single computer in that entire precinct. Oh my God.
That would be a nightmare because paperwork is the bane of our existence for what we do. And I couldn't imagine not having a PC.
Then the captain plops down a little glass jar, and in it is a couple little scraps of plastic. And Somerset kind of looks at it and is like, great, goes back to his typewriter, and captain goes, strips of plastic. All right, good for you. Taken from the victim's stomach.
Yep.
Somerset's like, ooh,
plastic.
So he returns to the crime scene.
He does.
Of our original deceased person,
Humpty Dumpty,
who we assume is Gluttony. Yeah. So he returns to the crime scene and he's looking around, and now he notices some gouges in the floor.
Yeah, right by the fridge.
And these little plastic strips from the victim's stomach fit perfectly into the gouges in front of the fridge. So Somerset's like, ooh, what put these gouges here? Let me move the fridge. And behind the fridge, painted on the wall, is the word gluttony.
Right.
And then there's a little Post-it note with a handwritten note.
There is. And it makes no sense. And I sat and thought about it. Long is the way, and hard that out of hell leads up to light. Why would you feed these plastic pieces to the big boy? Obviously, this guy wants to be caught.
Yeah, or at least he wants somebody on his trail. It's kind of the Criminal Minds, right? He wants to... It's not enough to kill these people. He wants to make sure people know that he killed them for this reason in this fashion.
Yep.
And so Somerset comes back to the precinct and goes, well, we now have gluttony and greed. You can expect 5 more.
Yep.
Thank God I'm retiring.
Yeah, he's like, I'm out, bitches.
Yeah, have fun. Have fun, Mills. You said you wanted this. Get in there.
This is I think for me, the funniest line in the movie is where the captain, they're at the precinct and Somerset's desk phone rings and the captain picks it up and he's like, this isn't even my desk, without saying anything else, and he hangs the phone up.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
So Somerset goes to the library, and I couldn't tell. Was that the PD's library, like the archives, or the New York Public Library?
Yeah,
because there was a lot of armed guards in there.
And that's what I put in my notes. How many fucking guards does it take to guard a library?
Yeah, because that's what caught me, is I could understand if there was a librarian, but there was... What, 6 or
7?
Yeah.
And they're all playing cards.
Guards that were armed. And they're sitting there playing cards. And so Somerset was checking out all the books on the 7 deadly sins. And he makes a little jab at him.
Gentlemen, I'll never understand. All these books, a world of knowledge at your fingertips. What do? You play poker all night.
Hey, we got culture.
Yeah, we got culture coming out our ass.
All right.
How's this for culture?
And so he writes a note of recommended reading for Mills and passes it along to him. And Mills is sitting in his car and he's trying to read and decipher this. But so he goes,
fucking Dante. Goddamn poetry writing, faggot piece of shit. Fucker.
Throws the book.
Which is a hilarious line.
It's a very funny line.
I feel like they would not have put that using faggot in 2020.
Oh, no. But back then, sure.
Like, we're a little bit more politically correct now, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with not...
Faggot is a pile of sticks.
Or
a cigarette.
A fag is a cigarette,
yeah.
But I'm okay with, like, not using that word. And retard, I'm okay with not using that word. I'm not okay with us finding an excuse to be offended at everything.
Right.
Like, I think that's where political correctness goes too far. But it is a hilarious line.
Yeah, because he's so pissed. And he's in his car. It's pouring rain. It's raining in every scene of this effing movie. I can understand his frustration.
Yeah, and so the rain, part of that is the director wanted it to be rainy all the time to make it a little bit more bleak and depressing. But the other part is he's like, I've had a couple of shoots ruined because one moment it was sunny, the next one it was raining, and then we had to wait. So he goes, fuck it. If you make it raining in every scene, then you never have to worry about the weather, because if it's raining, perfect. If it's not, we'll add it.
Yeah, and that's what he did.
Yeah, so it is pouring every scene. And this was a great day for us to record this because we've had 2 weeks of sunny 60-degree weather.
It's been scary.
Today it's downpoured. So I was like, ooh. Like,
And it's Friday the 13th.
it is Friday the 13th. So it's been like a little ominous as far as that goes. But yeah, so a beat cop, which we decide is an asshole.
Yeah, the asshole shows up.
Comes up and dunk, dunk, dunk on his window, and he cracks it like an inch, and he stuffs in a couple of books, and you see it's the cliff notes of all of those books: Dante's Inferno, The Divine Comedy.
Oh my
Canterbury
God,
Tales.
yeah, and I was like, that's so freaking hilarious.
Yeah, which I love that he can't handle the actual words, but he also has one of the beat cops go get it for him.
Get him the shit. We get back to precinct, and it's obvious that there's a transition between Mills taking over Somerset's office, because Mills pops in and Somerset's kind of set up on his table, and they're sharing the office, but the phone rings and it's Mills' wife, and he's like, honey, I told you not to call me here.
And then it reveals everybody's name. So David Mills, William Somerset, and the wife is Tracy.
Mm-hmm. So Tracy is calling because she wants to invite Somerset to dinner at their house. She's obviously aware of the tension between the two and is saying, hey, if we're going to be here, I want things to be smooth. She's, a typical woman.
And it's funny you allude to that tension a little bit because I relate to both Somerset and Mills. And probably everybody does, right? So in the beginning of my career, I was very much so a Mills, very gung ho.
Go get him.
Yeah, go get him. Like I'm gonna make.
And when you realize how tough it really is, you're like, fuck it.
No, not
I'm Somerset.
Yeah, now I'm kind of more of a Somerset. Like I'll walk into your office and you're in a code book, and I'm like, what are you doing in that code book?
Yeah, you're like, yeah.
I'm like, what are you looking up? Like you're like, hey, isn't it like if I remember? I'm like, God damn it, Tim, you're just get out there and do your inspection. Don't be looking shit up. You're gonna cause more grief for me.
Well, yeah. So
it depends on
I mean,
the
I
moment.
get it. I get it. It's just like anything else. Once you become comfortable in a position, you kind of
Salty veteran.
Once you become comfortable, you just kind of say, all right, it's not as in depth as I thought it was when I first started, but
Or you lose a little enthusiasm.
maybe. And it's not. Yeah. So it's a late supper. We're dinner at the apartment with Mills and his wife Tracy. They pop in and Mills is like, all right, I'm gonna go check on the kids, and I'm like, what kids? And it's a couple of dogs.
Yeah, 3 pretty big dogs for that tiny ass apartment.
Yep. And they're kept in one room, and there's feces everywhere. Just kidding.
Yeah, right. But that's all my brain went to. I was like, oh, what a pain in the ass it would be to take them out.
In New York? Yeah, hell yeah,
like,
I
you
would.
gotta take them. I mean, I guess you could take them down the elevator, but you take them down the elevator outside. Like,
pick up the shit.
yeah, not worth it.
No. Well, and I don't have dogs. You do, so.
Yeah, not worth it.
Yeah, all right. So from the mouths of babes.
So after dinner, they're sitting there, they're having a drink.
Yeah, and they're just kind of shooting the shit.
And all of a sudden,
That
the whole apartment starts shaking. And it turns out it's the subway. The subway is so close to the apartment. When it goes by, it shakes the whole
and they all
apartment.
get a good laugh because they're drunk.
And Mills is like, goddamn realtor, he brought us here for
Yeah.
only 5 minutes at a time. First night, we figured out why.
Yep.
And Somerset's like, oh yeah, it's a vibrating apartment. Like,
yeah, and they just all laugh.
They just all start laughing. He's like, I'm sorry, it's not funny, but it is funny. Your terrible situation.
Yep.
So Tracy excuses herself and goes off to...
Yeah, and they start talking the case down.
Yeah.
But here's where I have an issue is I think they're a little too loose with the evidence that's gathered. Can you, I know for us, we cannot take case files home. You're not supposed to remove documentation like that from headquarters or wherever. But these guys have all the files in front of him, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah, there would probably be like a claim of spoliation of evidence right there.
Right, or lack of chain of custody.
Yeah, or at the very least, your wife probably shouldn't be privy to those files.
Correct.
There's probably some sort of confidentiality in there that I'm not aware of. But yeah, they start discussing the greed case and that he was bled to death and the pound of flesh.
No more, no less, no cartilage, no bone, but only flesh.
Yeah, so the attorney was forced to cut a pound of flesh away from him, and then he would live, and in doing so, he bled himself to death, which is, again, like the original, this is like the original Saw. The only difference is Saw is categorized as like torture porn. So rather
Torture porn?
You've never heard that phrase, torture porn? It's how 7, you show up to the crime scene afterwards. Saw shows it in gory detail. Like, so if this was a Saw movie, you wouldn't show up and be like, oh, wow, this guy had to cut a pound of flesh out. It would show him cutting himself. And
all right.
so that's why they call that's why they call it torture porn. I think this was really like a pioneer for that, and Saw kind of took it to the next level. But I love their drinking, and Mill's like, hey, I'm going to get another beer. You want anything? And Somerset says, yeah, red wine, alluding to my beverage of choice here. And Tracy, when she poured him a glass of wine with dinner, put it in a wine glass. Mills serves him red wine in a tall Collins glass. That's got to be at least 4 cups of wine in that glass. Like,
didn't notice.
Yeah, and it just, I think it plays to Somerset is very cultured. He's familiar with all of these all these works. And can pronounce them correctly, and he drinks red wine, and Mills butchers the pronunciation. He
calls him a faggot.
Yeah, he's drinking swilling beer, and then when he serves wine, he pours it in a glass and gives him gotta be 12 ounces of red wine. It's a very subtle character nod that he is not cultured where Somerset is.
I didn't pick up on that. Good call.
And then the last part of the conversation is Somerset's talking about how, you know, the world's gone to hell. They teach you in rape prevention classes that if you're being attacked, don't yell help because no one will come help. Yell fire. And that's sad, if that's true. But I just immediately, my mind's eye goes to, like, you hear someone yelling, fire, fire. And Tim and I, what we do, like, even off duty, I'd go running and you come around the corner and some guy's got his dick out trying to rape a woman. I'm like, where's the fire? Like, because rape is not funny. But if I did not expect to find that would really slow me down for at least a beat or two. And I'd be like, wait.
You just said a beat or two.
Oh. But that would really slow me down
I've never followed the process as much as you just did.
That seems like bad advice. Ladies, if you're being attacked, yell help, not fire. I'll help you either way.
No, do both.
Yeah, maybe both.
But maybe carry some mace or a gun and shoot the F out.
Or maybe yell rape. So I will still come help, but I'll at least know what I'm getting into. If you yell fire,
I'm going to grab a hose.
I'm going to go get a bucket of water or a fire extinguisher. And when I come around back and catch said act, I'm going to
hit him with the bucket.
I'm going to be like, I'm terribly ill-equipped for this. If only you had given me better dispatch information.
Yeah, well, you know. But you got there. That's the whole point.
I guess.
We're gonna do our 360 now. Yeah. If he's on the seaside with you, it's gonna take me a little bit to get to you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or I'm gonna be like, fuck. I'm gonna have to do an investigation report. I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that. So we go to Mrs. Lawyer's safe house.
Yeah.
She had a name, right?
Gould.
Yeah, I didn't write that down. I didn't feel the need to pause it for that. I wrote Mrs. Lawyer. So we go to her safe house because she must know something.
Yeah, I mean, her eyes were blood.
Yeah, they drew little blood circles around her eyes. She must be a part of this somehow.
And she's in a safe house.
She is.
So they're questioning her, and they're like, hey, take a look at these photographs. And I can't imagine looking at photographs of a scene where your significant other was just, you know, killed because he obviously died from his wounds. But she's like, oh, that picture's upside down. That ain't right.
Yeah, that was so fucked up that they're like, here, look at these these pictures.
Like, just get through it.
Of your mutilated husband. Like, When was this? 24 hours later? Less than 24 hours?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, can you just look at these pictures of your bloody ass husband who had to take a knife to himself at some psycho's, anything you notice out of the ordinary?
It's just like, a picture.
Other than greed written in blood and, your husband's entrails all over the carpet. Anything peculiar about this? And she looks at this fucking Picasso painting or Jackson Pollock, which to me, how could you tell?
Good for you. You named 2 real artists.
Yeah, and I took an art class.
You did?
Georgia O'Keeffe.
Well, it didn't work because you can't draw for shit.
I know, but I can tell you all about the eggshell paintings that they did in the Renaissance era.
Proud of you.
Yeah, thanks,
Nice.
buddy. So it's some very obscure painting, like which way is up, down, left, right, and she's like, that painting. It's upside down. Like, are you sure? Because it looks like my fucking toddler did it. Yep, it's definitely upside down.
Again, art is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
So, of course, they head back to lawyer's office, and they find prints on the wall behind the painting, which I find funny because what dick, and I say that as, detective, carries with him a fingerprint kit in his pocket.
A good one, apparently.
Obviously.
I would not. Mine would be
So
in the
he
desk
just,
bag in the office.
Somerset just pulls this kid out of his pocket and he starts brushing shit. And sure enough, fingerprints are there. And the fingerprints on the wall behind the painting are in the form of words that say, help me.
Yep. And so they run it through their little fingerprint scanner back at headquarters.
Which is dot matrix.
Yeah. So they're like, yeah, this could take up to 3 days because they were just sitting there like eager over the guy's shoulder.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, this will take 3 days for a match. How about you go think and,
And have a sandwich.
Yeah, go somewhere else. So they fall asleep out on the couch out in the hallway.
Yep, waiting for the print lab. And it's now Thursday, and there's a briefing. I would assume that it's PD headquarters again, that they have a fingerprint match.
Yep, so it comes to a Theodore Allen who goes by Victor. And I immediately thought my wife watches a shit ton of Chopped. The host of that show is Ted Allen.
Yep.
He's one of the queer eyes for the straight guy. And so I was like, oh, this poor motherfucker. He just can't catch a break.
Yeah.
So,
why? Never mind.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's who they're going after? Like, what are they going to find in his basket? So SWAT team rolls
Yeah,
on
so
his
it's so
last
fun-
known address.
Yeah, it's so funny that the guys still giving the SWAT team briefing as they're going down the stairs. So the guys like 13 people back have no idea what the F he's saying, but
Yeah, what'd they say? Shoot to kill?
shoot to kill. Okay.
Yeah. No, we're just making that up. But yeah, they were having the briefing as they go down the stairs.
They're going down the stairs at PD headquarters, and they go to their PD parking garage. And these MFers, you're going to what I consider covert operation, right? But they're running hot out of their freaking garage. They turn all their lights on, and
Yeah.
they leave in their garage with the lights on.
Yeah, look at me.
Look at me. Check me out.
In Mills and Somerset, they have a driver in their car.
They do.
So that they can have their conversation about whether or not they've used their service piece throughout their careers. Somerset never has. He's pulled his out a couple times, but
And
never.
Mills has once.
And Mills like, yep, my first day I shot a motherfucker.
yeah.
Awesome. But what I noticed more than anything in that scene is Mills is drinking coffee out of a paper cup with a paper handle attached to it. I have not seen that since the 90s. I kind of miss that. You know what I'm talking about?
I do
paper
too.
cup that had the
Because
little paper
you know
handle.
me. I even put that same thing on my cold coffees. Because I don't like touching cold or hot.
Yeah, no, I just liked how silly it looked. And
Yeah.
like you were really taking your life into your own hands, holding this scalding hot beverage by a piece of fucking cardboard that is loosely attached to the cup that you're holding.
Yeah.
And that's probably why you don't see it anymore.
Right, correct.
Whoever that company was got the pantsuit off of them. So they roll up to the apartment complex where Victor's last known address was.
Yep. And the SWAT team is all fucking jazzed up. And the dicks are running up behind. We've established that beat cops are assholes
Yeah.
and detectives are dicks. What are SWAT?
Shitheads?
Shitheads.
'Cause it starts-
Assholes, shitheads, and dicks.
Because it starts with S, I guess.
All right, so the shitheads are all jazzed up, and it's so funny that the one that has the breach device is kind of behind everybody because she's a little bit slower. Maybe she's missed the last few weeks of PT, and she's like, "Hey, swap before dicks," and she runs past the two detectives, and the guys are like, "Oh, they live for this."
Yeah, which this is another trope, whether you watch Criminal Minds or any of these things, that you have the SWAT guys like armed to the teeth, wearing ballistic gear, and then you always have, whether it's the FBI, CIA, or in this case the detectives, are right there beside them, wearing maybe a vest, but usually street clothes, and a pistol. It's like, just wait outside until the scene is clear, but I know that's not nearly as cool. There's air fresheners everywhere.
Everywhere,
Like the little pine tree ones that you put in your car.
yeah, we're talking 90s for sure.
Yeah. And so they're like, huh. And they're like, well, what is this shit? And they see this emaciated person chained to a bed with air fresheners above them. And on the wall above their head is written sloth.
Which is the sin for absence of interest or disinclination to exertion. So pretty much being a sloth, not being motivated, not doing stuff.
And then one of the SWAT guys goes, yep, that's Victor. I know this asshole from anywhere. It's actually John C. McGinley. And he gets up in his face and pigeon chests a little bit. And he's like,
You got what you deserved.
He's alive! He's alive! Cocksucker's alive! Stop breathing!
Come down! Emergency on that ambulance!
The motherfucker breathes. He takes a breath. Yeah,
Yeah,
and everybody. You know what I find funny is this dude strapped to a bed that looks like the Tales from the Crypt dude, but they all pull their guns on him.
yeah. So I pulled out my gun.
Pulled out my gun, and he's like,
did that make you jump at all? Because I've heard that's
"It did." Well, I watching it again, I was like, "Wait, no, I remember this dude being alive."
I remembered it,
but
too,
it did.
yeah.
It did make me jump.
I don't know if it made me jump the first time I saw it, but I remembered it. It was one of the few scenes that I remembered, so it didn't scare me this time.
I was at work, and not regular work. I was at my second
Scabby work.
and I was watching this movie with my partner, and my partner stops and says, "Hey, did you see that?" And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "The guys with the stretcher out of the ambulance, they just carried it. They didn't put the wheels down." And I'm like, "No, I didn't see that." So us being in the business, and I say business, but in emergency services, when we pull the stretcher out of the ambulance, we drop the wheels. We're not going to carry the stretcher. That's beetle-headed. But these two guys in the ambulance, when they pulled it out, all they did was carry it into the building.
Yeah, it was 1995. We did different things back then. We were backboarding everybody.
And they had two ambulances for one dude.
Yeah.
There were two ambulances.
Well,
on
maybe
scene.
it was the same crew from Gluttony, and they're like, we're going to fucking
We're
need
gonna
the
need
help.
Yeah, we need the ramp.
This is the spaghetti killer. And I noticed this time, too, because I actually did forget this scene. The reporter in the stairwell, so they're having a conversation in the stairwell, and this guy comes up and snaps their picture. And Mills freaks out at him, and he's like, you low-life media scum, like, get the fuck out of here. He's like, how do they get here so fast? And Somerset says, yeah, they've got guys on the inside that they pay to get information. Like, so our cops feed them information in exchange for money. And they took a lot of effort to make sure you didn't see that reporter's face. I wonder if that was the killer, and that's why they were here so soon.
And I found it funny because the cameraman, says something kind of witty to Mills. He's like, "Oh, I'm surprised you can spell."
The doctor says he's been laying in bed now for exactly a year to the day. He's been kept alive with like
medicine and
antibiotics and
unbelievable
and an NG tube, and he chewed off his own tongue a long time ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So Tracy calls Detective Somerset at work and says she wants to meet with him to talk. She's kind of vague about what she wants to talk about. So they meet at a little breakfast diner, and she talks about how much she hates this city. She was a school teacher in their previous city, and she's been looking for a job.
Yeah, and she feels lost.
Yeah, she feels lost. And then she alludes to she's pregnant, and Mills doesn't know. So she asks Somerset, have you ever been married? And he goes, well, as a matter of fact, almost once. Okay. And then he goes, yeah, and as a matter of fact, she was pregnant too. And I convinced her to have an abortion. He wasn't that direct about it, but he talked about, yeah, we decided we shouldn't have the baby, and I convinced her to go get an abortion. She eventually, I think what he said was she eventually wore down and went and got the abortion.
And that was the end of their relationship.
Yeah, so it was like, nice. And not to get into religion again, I'm not necessarily a huge pro-life guy, but I am definitely against using abortion as birth control, which it sounds like they were, because this wasn't
at least him, yeah.
Yeah, this wasn't a one-night stand. This was somebody he almost got married to. So whatever, but that kind of makes you look at Somerset in a little bit of different light.
It almost kind of took him down a few pegs for me. But I would think what the scene establishes is that there's a rapport between Tracy and Somerset, and that she trusts him, even though Mills maybe doesn't.
And his closing advice to her is, if you're going to go take care of it, i.e. get an abortion, just don't tell Mills. But if you're gonna keep the baby, make sure you spoil it every single day. Then it cuts to Somerset and Mills back in the precinct discussing
their killer.
Yeah, they're discussing the killer. We know that he's going through the 7 deadly sins at this point because we have a couple of them. And Mills has this great quote.
Come on, he's insane. Look, right now he's probably dancing around in his grandma's panties. Yeah, rubbing himself in peanut butter. Ooh. How's that?
I don't think so.
He's a nutbag. Just because the fucker's got a library card doesn't make him Yoda.
As they're talking through, there's an evidence board that they have, and some of the evidence is actually like taped or pasted to the board. And again, this is that whole chain of custody shit where I'm like, there's no way that if you had a murder weapon, there's no way that you would have that in a plastic bag taped to a board, in the office space.
Well, what if my kid wanted to play with it when he came to visit me at work?
It's just funny. It's just funny how Hollywood sometimes takes their artistic license a little bit too far.
And then Mills and Somerset starts doing a little cloak and dagger shit, right? He's like, how much money you got?
Yeah.
He's like, I got like $50 on me. Why? He's like, give it to me. So they meet up with this mysterious guy and they slide the cash to him under the table. He's like, I'll meet you at the barbershop. I'll meet you at the barbershop in an hour. And Mills is like, what's
money
that?
Well spent.
Money, what's that about? And he's like, don't worry about it. We'll see him in an hour. So it turns out this guy goes and runs like the library records of who's been checking out these books.
He works for the FBI.
And there's a guy named John Doe. And so Mills is like, what's with all this cloak and dagger shit? And Somerset's like, well, this isn't exactly legal, what we're doing. And it made me stop for a second. I'm like, what in the fuck? And then I said, oh yeah, this was 1995. This was pre-Patriot Act where, even your library records were considered personal information, where now it's like,
forget it.
There's no expectation of privacy. Hey, wiretap? Oh, I mean, Alexa, can you?
Alexa, yeah. Oh, hey, iPhone?
Yeah, so there's no expectation of privacy. But in 1995, like, this was considered inadmissible evidence because I got this without a warrant. But yeah, so there's been somebody who's checked out all these same books by the name of John Doe.
Well, let's go give it a look-see.
Let's dig a little bit deeper. There's a couple that he checked out that we didn't check out. And then they're sitting in the car going through the titles.
Of human bondage.
Not what you think.
Okay. The Marquis de Chardin.
It's the Marquis de Sade.
Whatever. The writings of St. Thomas Aquinas something.
St. Thomas Aquinas, there it is. He wrote about the 7 deadly sins.
And again, Mills butchers the titles and pronunciation of all of this stuff, and Somerset corrects him. And it's like, you ignorant fool.
Yeah. It's like a guy who's a connoisseur of fine wines is trying to take out somebody who drinks Budweiser.
Or you pronounce it Chianti.
Yeah.
That's Silence of the Lambs for those of you playing at home.
So they get a set address of a John Doe. and they are knocking on his door. Nobody's answering, but this fella is coming up the apartment stairs and stops.
Yeah, he's got like a bag of groceries.
Yeah.
And he's wearing like a trench coat. And
And a top hat.
yeah, looking all sketchy. And
Yeah,
and Mills is completely unaware.
Oblivious.
Because he's the dumb rookie.
Yeah.
And Somerset, being the salty veteran that he is.
Well, he's
like,
got situational
yeah, he's
awareness.
like, this guy is he's making my spidey sense tingle.
He goes, Mills. And then,
just as Mills
sure enough,
looks, yeah.
bam, 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 bam,
Yeah,
bam.
he fires a couple rounds
Yeah, he
at
does
him.
50 Cent.
Yeah, 50 Cent.
No, 50.
Oh, 50.
Hate your face.
That's a little throwback to our first episode.
Hate your
if you
face.
haven't heard that, you should go check it out.
Hate your face, Thatcher.
So a chase ensues. Somerset is going to go around the other way because he's obviously a little bit older and a little bit slower. So he'll try to like cut off the flank, and Mills is hot on his tail. And a couple rounds are exchanged like on the stairwell. Finally, the chase leads outside to a back alley. And so it's pouring again because it's this movie. Mills is walking through. He's
And there's a trash truck.
yeah, and he's like looking in the windows of the trash truck, and all of a sudden he gets hit from above.
I think it was a crowbar.
Yeah, it was some sort of blunt object.
Yeah.
He gets hit from above, and he's rolling around on the ground in pain. And it's a couple cool shots here. Fincher gets very artistic. So from a puddle's reflection, you see the trench coat guy.
From a puddle's view.
From a puddle's view. Maybe there's some worms in there drowning. You see the trench coat guy approach, and he puts a gun up to the temple of Mills's head.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to an angle from Mill's point of view, and the gun's in full focus, but our gunman is
blurred.
completely blurry.
Yep.
So that's a really cool shot.
Yeah.
And he hesitates, and then the killer runs off. And,
Takes off,
And
yep.
doesn't end up shooting Mills in the head.
Yeah, and then our veteran Somerset, who's 20 years older than Mills, shows up. He's just, Mills!
And Mills is all bloody because he
got whacked.
Yeah, he got whacked, and his hand is bound up for some reason too.
I think when he was
sliding,
sliding, remember at one point he went down the
fire escape.
the fire escape in the alley. I think he cut his hand because he was grabbing it after he fell.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I noticed it was bandaged up after
Yeah.
the scene. I couldn't recall quite where he cut it.
Yep.
So then they go back to the apartment door because Mills is like, "All right, here we go. Like,
Right.
we got our guy."
And Somerset's like, look, we need a reason to knock on this door. We need a reason to be here. We can't just go in here because it's a legal search and seizure.
Right. Which I think if they did some creative writing, they probably could have gotten away with exigent circumstance.
Well, but does that true? We'll have to ask the PD. Does exigent circumstance really exist like that with PD? You think so?
It does, yeah. Like you're allowed to.
Right,
so
but
if you're in a chase, you're allowed to pursue somebody into a private or locked area.
Right.
And then any evidence you come upon is admissible evidence, kind of like we're allowed to go to a structure fire. So yes,
but what brought them to that door though is what
right.
Somerset is saying.
That's true. That is true because again, I'm living in post 9/11 where that is admissible evidence. But that's true that he's like, hey, we don't even have a reason to be knocking on this guy's door.
Yeah.
And Mill's like, fucking A, we do. We got the suspect. And he's like, I know, but the evidence that led us here is not legal. How am I supposed to talk about our $50 under the table to the sketchy FBI guy? And Mills goes, yep, you're right.
Yep,
and they start to walk away and just karate kicks the door open. He goes,
Mills does.
yeah, and oh shit, like it's open now. How are you gonna explain that?
Yeah.
Might as well go in.
Somerset's like, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, I'm getting too old for this shit.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that's Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, no, and that's Danny Glover.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know. But that would have been funny if he said that as like
Too old for
a
this
nod
shit.
to Lethal
Oh,
Weapon.
that would have been
I'm
perfect.
getting too old for this shit.
I found that this is the part of the movie where Mills is the smartest of ever. You know, he takes a book from the page of Somerset.
Fuck you. Yes, anytime I sometimes have a slip of the tongue with some of those, what are they called? Idioms?
Yeah.
Would that be an idiom?
Yeah, it's an idiom.
When I go to say he took a page from his book and I say he took a book from his page, Tim never lets me let it down. So
It's the only thing I have against you.
yeah, so thanks, Tim. But yes, he does take a book from his page. I got it wrong on purpose that time.
I know.
and says, hey, how much money we have left after you cleaned me out for the fucking pizza informant there? And he's like, what are you up to? So Mills, like a genius, goes and finds a homeless person, because we know they're abound in New York City, and has her give the police a false statement that she heard gunshots, or what was it? She heard...
I can't recall exactly, but it was to tell a lie to one of the beat cops.
So one of the assholes, the beat cop, is taking report that, yep, this is what went down in apartment blah blah blah. Let's say it was like 206.
And that's why I called Detective Somerset.
Yeah, and that's why I called these two guys who were here for no reason. They were following up on one of those fraudulent checks that they do in the homicide division, and that's why they went into that apartment. Right. So he's like, see? So it was a good blend of like...
It was very good on Mills.
Of like the old, follow the rules, and the new, the rules are meant to wipe your ass with.
Yeah.
So they walk in, and it's an episode straight out of Criminal Minds.
Oh, God, yeah. This place is riddled with... another shitty apartment, actually. That's pretty much what it is.
No surprise. That's not out of the ordinary. It would have been sketchy if he had a clean apartment. But pro tip, if you're a serial killer, you probably don't need to display pictures of your victims and newspaper clippings like they're goddamn trophies all over the wall. But maybe you do. Maybe that's part of the psychology of it. Maybe you're really proud of your murders, and when you have, a nice dinner party, you want your guests to be...
to check it out. They're talking points.
They're talking points. Yeah, exactly. What
look at this hand in the jar.
Yeah.
Or look at these 400 jars of spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, you think I went with the left hand, but no, I went with the right. I went with the right. So not only does he have some pictures and newspaper articles from the murders that we already know about, but there's some clues that maybe we've got some plans in the works of our next couple murders. There's a order form for a custom leather suit.
Yes.
That caught Mills' eyes, like, what the shit is this? And then they find the bathroom has been made into a dark room for photography.
Yes. Hanging from the wall of the bathroom that was turned into a dark room are some photographs, recent ones. One of them happens to be a picture of in a stairwell of Mills in Somerset when Mills was telling off a media guy who showed up at a crime scene. It clues Mills in immediately that, fuck, we had this guy. This is our killer. This is a picture of me and you at a crime scene.
They do have their guy, which is good, but now their guy is on to them. He knows that they know about him. Right. And they found some other weird shit in his apartment. Like they opened some of his drawers and he had dozens of bottles of empty aspirin.
Yeah, and he has like 2,000 notebooks in his apartment.
And so, talk about a fucking waste of time. Hollywood, much like the federal government, I read on the trivia, all those notebooks, rather than just be blank or write in a couple of them and have some words in them, they paid some asshole to sit there and fill out all 2,000 of those, cover to cover.
Oh my God. No way.
So that's why I'm not even joking.
That is the stupidest effing thing I've ever heard.
So when Somerset uses the lines, it would take this many men.
It would take 30 years to go through all this shit, or whatever he said.
Yeah, whatever amount of time he said. I think he said it would take this many men.
Was that actually how many hours it took for that dude to write?
Yeah, because that's how they came up with that time. It took him a couple of months, I guess, to just sit there and write gibberish in 2,000 books, page to page.
That is
how stupid.
Stupidest thing I've ever heard.
So whenever you see that a movie's budget has $173 million or something, just sit there and remember, like Halloween, some idiot making fake leaves instead of finding some leaf, and some jackass filling out words. That's why.
That's a sweet gig. Why can't we get gigs like that?
I feel like Hollywood could use some Lean Six Sigma, though. Tim would show up and be like,
you motherfuckers don't know what you're doing.
What sick, ridiculous puppets we are, and what a gross little stage we dance on. What fun we have, dancing, fucking, not a care in the world. Not knowing that we are nothing. We are not what was intended. No, wait, there's a lot more. On the subway today, a man came up to me to start a conversation. He made small talk, this lonely man, talking about the weather and other things. I tried to be pleasant and accommodating, but my head began to hurt from his banality. I almost didn't notice it had happened, but I suddenly threw up all over him. He was not pleased. And I couldn't stop laughing. No dates. Placed on the shelves in no discernible order. Just his mind poured out on paper.
And the phone rings, and it's unknown where the phone is. So the assholes are all in the way while Mills is trying to find the phone. Finally, he gets to
Dick's
it.
trying to push through the assholes.
Yeah. So, story of my life. He finally gets to the phone, and it's the killer. Obviously, he knows his own phone number. He gives himself a call.
Hello?
I admire you. I don't know how you found me, but imagine my surprise. I respect you law enforcement agents more every day.
Well, I appreciate that, John. I'll tell you...
No, you listen, all right? I'll be readjusting my schedule in light of today's little setback. I just had to call and express my admiration. Sorry I had to hurt one of you, but I didn't really have a choice, did I? You will accept my apology, won't you? I feel like saying more, but I don't want to ruin the surprise.
So it cuts to the leather shop. They found that purchase order in John Doe's apartment for a custom leather getup, and they followed to the store and they asked the guy about it. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember this. This was real fucked up. You guys are into some freaky shit." And they're like, "Yeah, we're dicks. We're detectives."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I took a Polaroid of this because it was so fucked up. Like I had to remember this." And they don't show us the picture, but the both of them look at it and they're like,
"Oh F."
shit!" And they walk out with the picture, and he goes, "Hey man,
Hey.
the picture,
Right.
picture!"
Because
And-
he's thinking that's going to sell more equipment.
yeah, and they blow him off and they leave. Then it turns out there is a streetwalker, a prostitute that has been found dead in a sex club.
Yeah, and this is like an underground sex club because these guys the dicks show up and the assholes are like already there. And the music is wicked loud, and Somerset's like, "Come on, can we do something about this?" And he's like, "We're working on it." They go into this room, and there's this dude screaming. He's like, "Get this off of me! Get this off of me!"
And there's a dead prostitute on the bed, and then the camera finally shows you the Polaroid. And I'm not familiar with any of this stuff, but it's basically a leather bodysuit, and where would be like a strap-on dildo is a
knife.
16-inch knife blade.
Oh my God, at least.
like a broadsword. And so
Oh my God,
so
Yeah.
you jump to the conclusion that he had sex with this prostitute with a knife strap on, and that's why he's so freaked out, and that's why said prostitute is dead. And lust was carved, it looked like, into the door of the private room in the sex club.
Yeah, so Mills and Somerset are interviewing the whorehouse owner and the John being the guy who was with said prostitute.
Somerset's with the victim, and this guy actually stayed up for 2 days before this scene. And
Like in real life?
in real life, and then hyperventilated for a couple of minutes before the cameras rolled, so that he would have that really like fucked up, out of it look. And it worked.
Shit, it worked,
He
because that
sold-
guy was, yeah.
He sold it pretty well, but
Very well.
he describes the scene to Somerset that our John Doe forced him into this get-up and then stuck a gun in his mouth, tied the prostitute to the bed, made him to have sex with her with this 16-inch knife.
Unbelievable in terms of just thinking it through. Unbelievable.
You think he finished? Do you think the John came?
I don't know how to answer that.
You paid $50, bro.
To each their own.
So it cuts to Somerset and Mills at a bar.
Yes.
And there's pretty good dialogue between them.
You know, this isn't gonna have a happy ending. It's not possible.
Hey, man, we catch him, I'll be happy enough.
If we catch John Doe and he turns out to be the devil, I mean, if he's Satan himself, that might live up to our expectations, but he's not the devil. He's just a man.
Hey,
Television.
how did you get like this? I want to know.
There wasn't one thing, I can tell you that. I just don't think I can continue to live in a place that embraces and nurtures apathy as if it was a virtue.
You know different, you know better.
I didn't say I was different or better. I'm not. Hell, I sympathize. I sympathize completely. Apathy is a solution. I mean, it's easier to lose yourself in drugs than it is to cope with life. It's easier to steal what you want than it is to earn it.
Yeah.
It's easier to beat a child than it is to raise it.
Hell, love costs. It takes effort and work.
We are talking about people who are mentally ill. We are talking about people fucking crazies.
No,
Yes.
we're not. No.
Today.
We're talking about everyday life here. You can't afford to be this naive.
You should listen to yourself. Yeah. You say that the problem with people is that they don't care. So I don't care about people. That makes no sense. You know why?
You care.
You want to know? Damn right.
And you're gonna make a difference.
Whatever. The point is that I don't think you're quitting because you believe these things you say. I don't. I think you want to believe them because you're quitting.
So they took off from the bar. It shows Mills going to bed, and Gwyneth Paltrow is asleep, and he says, "I love you so much, more than more than you'll ever know." And it shows Somerset going to bed alone too, and of course his metronome is. And I think he did with it right now what I would have done with it the first time of trying it out, is he fucking throws that thing across the room. Somerset gets up at some point, and he's got a dartboard in his house, and he likes to throw his switchblade at the dartboard.
Super creepy. Like, if I walked in and saw these big gashes in your dartboard and was like, oh, what the fuck is that? And you're like, yeah, I throw my pocket knife at it every day. I'd be like, and about face, exit stage, right?
Yeah, well, and even further to that fucker wasn't even standing at regulation length. He was like 5 feet from the damn thing. Couldn't hit a bullseye. Of course, the blade was too big for a bullseye. But...
I did like, though, if you didn't notice, that there was a couple times he missed. There was a couple marks in the wall
Oh, I didn't see that.
outside of the board.
That would have been my son.
And I'm like, all right, that's realistic at least.
Yeah.
There's a couple, and then it cuts to another crime scene, and there's a chick strapped to the bed. And her face is all bandaged up, so we can't see it at all. In one hand is the cordless telephone super glued, and in the other hand is super glued some sleeping pills. And above the bed is written Pride.
Pride.
And so they come to the conclusion that, they mutilated this chick's face. Her nose is cut off and parts of her face are scarred, so she could have called for help with the phone or taken the sleeping pills and just kill herself, which is what she chose to do.
Yeah.
And this is very Saw-like. Again, if this was Saw, we would watch her kill herself rather than find the scene after the fact, because it's 2004. You gotta up the stakes a little bit.
Pride, according to my research, is the most serious sin of the 7 deadly sins, and that it's pretty much believing that you are better or superior than others. So this woman was obviously a model. She got by, no, I don't say got by, but she made her living off of her looks, and rather than be disfigured for life, she decided to choose death.
So Somerset says he's decided that he's going to stay on for the rest of the case, because we obviously know that there's going to be 7 of these things, and we've only had a few so far. So even though he's set to retire in a couple days, he's going to hang out for the duration. So just then, as they're having that conversation,
and heading
walking
upstairs,
up the stairs, this gentleman walks into the lobby of the police precinct, covered in blood, and goes, "Detective."
Detective.
After this, I'm gone.
No big surprise.
You're looking for me.
What's your fucking move?
The killer is played by Kevin Spacey, so he's obviously an A-list celebrity. And ironically, since this movie has come out, has gotten in trouble for some maybe lustful deeds.
Plus or minus somebody's faults, he is a fantastic actor.
He is, but that's why they excluded him from the intro credits, because you would be like, hey, where the fuck is Kevin Spacey throughout this? So that they gave him a double billing at the end of the movie. And they cuff him. This is really a criminal procedure movie, because the second he gets into cuffs, he goes, I want to talk to my lawyer. And they're like, you fucker.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, I actually am 6 credits shy of an associate's degree in criminal justice. And Tim is among those who did not know that because of the face he just gave me. I, for like a hot second, wanted to be a cop before.
You dumbass.
I know.
You dumbass.
I know. Before I became a fireman. So although I have a bachelor's degree, I'm just a few credits shy and an associate's in criminal justice that I'll finish up one of these days. So the 2 triggers for the Miranda rights are custody
Correct.
and questioning.
Yes.
So you can question somebody without them being in custody, or you can have somebody in custody, and if they just sit there and ramble on, you do not need to read them their rights. But if they lawyer up at any point,
Then
you're done.
it's game over.
They were like, yeah, we got him, and like, click, click, go on the bracelets. I would like to speak to my lawyer. And they're just like, you fucker. You fucking fuck.
Yeah, and Mills is upset. And Mills is like, he's just pissing on our faces.
And so in addition to being covered in blood, he's got bandages all over each and every one of his fingers. And they do explain it. This guy, he's been cutting off his fingerprints, his fingertips. That's why we haven't found any fingerprints on any of the crime scenes.
Yeah, that takes some serious dedication.
And then it turns out we forgot to talk about in the apartment, he had the hand of Victor. Remember that Victor's print showed up with the help me? He cut Victor's hand off, the guy Sloth who ended up chewing his own tongue. He cut his hand off and pushed it up against the wall to leave his fingerprint to spell out help me.
Pretty brilliant. So we're at the police station and the killer's scumbag lawyer, and I say scumbag because I don't know how you can, with a good conscience, represent somebody that does this, but he's saying, here's the deal. You know, there's 2 more bodies that are hidden, and my client is willing to take only Mills and Somerset to these bodies at 6 p.m. today. If not, he's going to plead insanity if you don't agree, and he'll get off because I'm a good lawyer and I can get it done.
And the whole plead insanity thing, that's a movie thing that we actually had to study that in criminal justice. Like, the plead insanity doesn't mean like, oh, he's insane, he gets to go free. If somebody is found to be insane, it just means they will live out their life in a mental correction facility and they can never be put to death if they truly are insane. So it's not the like, oh, get out of jail free card. But then the lawyer does bring up a good point because they're like, who the fuck cares if he pleads insanity? We're going to have him off the streets. And he goes, yeah, he's also inclined to talk to the media and tell them that you don't care about the 2 bodies that he knows about and you're not willing to bring these families closure and all that stuff. And then they're like, ooh, that's kind of a good point. And this is before social media existed too. Could you imagine? And of course, Mills and Somerset, they're just curiosity is like,
alone.
That's
let alone
really
the negative PR.
Yeah, that's really what's driving this. They're like, we gotta know.
Yeah,
like,
so
I want to know the creative way that you killed.
So I think it was brilliant. I mean, the killer in this movie, obviously, he really thought things through.
We have envy and we have wrath left for sins.
Deadly sins, correct.
Yeah, so they know that these are the 2 bodies that are remaining, right?
Yep.
And yeah, their twisted curiosity is driving this more than worrying about what the press has to think or providing closure to 2 families. But this was a really tense scene because I just put myself in their shoes, and you want to have justice be served. You want to satisfy your own curiosity. But at the same time, you're like, this guy has been 2 steps ahead of us every step of the way. We're walking into a trap, and we know it, and there's not a goddamn thing we can do about it.
But we have to go through with it.
But we're gonna.
The next scene, it's Mills and Somerset in the PD bathroom, and they're shaving their chests to make sure that the wires can get taped to them properly. And it's funny. Mills says, hey, will workman's comp cover shaved off nipples?
So as Mills and Somerset are getting dressed in the bathroom, they both put on their holsters and their suspenders. Somerset has an old school revolver.
Yes.
And Mills has a more modern pistol, like almost like a 1911. Thought that was a cool nod to the salty veteran using the
versus
old
the
school
new kid
versus the new kid using the newer technology.
I did catch that. And they're ready to get to these last 2 bodies. There's a car ride. They head from police headquarters, and it's a very good interlude between Mills. Somerset interjects a little bit, but Mills and the killer really have a go back and forth.
Who are you, John? Who are you really?
What do you mean?
All I mean, at this stage, what harm can it do to tell us a bit about yourself?
It doesn't matter who I am. Who I am means absolutely nothing. You need to stay on your left up here.
We're not just going to pick up 2 more dead bodies, are we, John? That wouldn't be shocking.
I can't wait for you to see. I really can't. It's really going to be something.
Well, you know what? I'm going to be standing right next to you. So when this big thing happens, you be sure and let me know, because I wouldn't want to miss it.
Oh, don't worry. You won't.
I've been trying to figure something in my head, and maybe you can help me out, yeah? When a person is insane, as you clearly are, do you know that you're insane? Maybe you're just sitting around reading Guns and Ammo, masturbating in your own feces. Do you just stop and go, wow, it is amazing how fucking crazy I really am?
It's more comfortable for you to label me insane.
It's very comfortable.
It seems strange to me that you would get such enjoyment out of it.
I doubt I enjoyed it any more than Detective Mills would enjoy time alone with me in a room without windows.
That hurts my feelings. I would never.
You wouldn't, only because there's consequences.
Wait a minute, I thought all you did was kill innocent people.
Innocent? Is that supposed to be funny? An obese man? A disgusting man who could barely stand up? A man who, if you saw him on the street, you'd point him out to your friends so that they could join you in mocking him? A man who, if you saw him while you were eating, you wouldn't be able to finish your meal? And after him, I picked the lawyer, and you both must have secretly been thanking me for that one. This is a man who dedicated his life to making money by lying with every breath that he could muster, to keeping murderers and rapists on the streets.
Murderers.
A woman.
Murderers, John, like
A
yourself.
woman so ugly on the inside that she couldn't bear to go on living if she couldn't be beautiful on the outside. A drug dealer, a drug-dealing pederast, actually. And let's not forget the disease-spreading whore. Only in a world this shitty could you even try to say these were innocent people and keep a straight face. The only reason that I'm here right now is that I wanted to be.
No, we would have got you eventually.
Oh, really? So, what were you doing? Biding your time? Toying with me? Allowing 5 innocent people to die until you felt like springing your trap? Tell me, what was the indisputable evidence you were going to use on me right before I walked up to you and put my hands in the air?
John, I seem to remember us knocking on your door.
And I seem to remember breaking your face. You're only alive because I didn't kill you.
After this good back and forth between Mills and the killer, it's obvious based on the helicopter views and the views of the car that we're out in the middle of East Bumfuck nowhere. This is strange because I made a note here that there is no deserts in New York, the state of New York.
No, I agree with you. That's why I wasn't sure that
it was NYC?
Yeah, this is why I didn't think it was New York City, but you paid a little bit closer attention. But you know what does have desert around it? Fucking Los Angeles. So again, kind of like episode 1, they should have just filmed it anywhere.
In LA.
Because trust me, there's fucking shitholes in California too.
He says, turn left here down this dirt road. They stop the car. So they're all out of the car, and Somerset is in front of the vehicle, and he sees something, and Hills goes, what is it? And he's like, oh, it's a dead dog. And the killer goes, I didn't do that. Which I thought is funny.
He's like, don't look at me.
He's like, oh, that's not my claim to fame. I didn't kill that pooch.
Maybe it was Michael. He eats the dogs.
Throw
back to episode 1, suckers. And then, they're like, all right, where's the body? It's on its way. What in the fuck are you talking about? PD helicopter's been following the car the whole time because they're like, all right, boys, let's get ready for an ambush. And then they get out into the middle of nowhere, and they're like, yep, no place that there could have been an ambush here, except for there is like a deserted trailer and all sorts of spots that there could be an ambush
There's
from.
tumbleweeds in New York State.
Yeah.
So there's this vehicle that starts approaching from, I don't know, the north or whatever, but it's opposite of them, and it's coming down the dirt road, kicking up dirt.
As the vehicle approaches, Somerset pulls out his gun and like takes the driver out GTA style, and the guy's like, what the fuck is going on? He's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I was told to deliver a package here at 6 o'clock.
7.
Was it 7?
Yep.
That makes way more sense. I was told to deliver a package here at 7 o'clock. And Somerset's kind of suspicious of him. Goes and go get it. He brings it out.
Get it. Give it to me.
Brings it out of the back, and they're like, oh, the helicopter. Oh, shit. We got a box.
Yeah.
Get the bomb squad.
Yeah, there's some good writing for
I feel like anything comes out of the back of that truck. Oh, shit. Get the bomb squad. In 2020, that would have been an Amazon Prime truck. But it was an unmarked delivery van.
Yep. Somerset takes out his switchblade, and he, after it's a few moments where he's like debating. He's like, oh, what do I do? Because he sends a driver off on foot, and he takes out his switchblade and he cuts the tape, and there's some blood on the package. And you have no idea. You can't see anything. So he finally opens it up, and Somerset is like shocked. He like steps back, doesn't really say anything, just a look on his face.
And it cuts over to Mills and John Doe.
And John,
I really envy you. You guys, you're so great. You've got such good jobs. You're so handsome. I just really envy you.
You're paraphrasing a bit.
I am, but he carries on about how much he envies you. And you're like, oh, fuck. I think I get it. Because he subtly, throughout the movie, referenced how envious he is of Mills and Somerset, but now he's like
using more on to Mills.
He's using the word envy every other word. I envy this, I envy that.
Yeah, and he says, I went to your house and I tried to play husband with your beautiful wife Tracy.
And Somerset's yelling, no!
He's like, throw down your gun, throw down your gun.
And running over, because he's quite a ways away from Mills.
Yeah.
And Mills like, what are you saying? What's in the box?
The killer's like, detective, I'm trying to tell you, I envy you. It didn't work out. I took a memento. Took your wife's head. And this is where Somerset shows up and he's like, Mills, put down your gun, put down your gun. And he's like, what's in the fucking box?
I saw you with the box. What was in the box?
Because I envy your normal life.
Put the gun down, David.
It seems that envy is my sin.
Oh, what's in the box? Not till you give me the What's gun. In the fucking box? Give me the gun.
What's in the box, man? Because he's like, is your wife's head's in the box? John Doe is. He's like, no, you're full of shit. Which is really interesting because this is about the 7 deadly sins, the whole movie. But this scene, Mills goes through the 5 stages of death and dying.
Oh, the stages of grief. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yep. So Mills goes through the 5 stages of grief.
I think he goes through them rather quickly.
Yeah, he does.
And he adds one, Wraith.
John Doe goes, she begged for her life and that of her unborn child. And Mills like makes this face and he goes, oh, you didn't know, did you? Because he didn't know. And then Mills looks over at Somerset, is like, oh.
And Somerset smacked the killer.
I think both John Doe and Mills picked up on the fact that Somerset did know.
Yes.
And Mills must have been like, how the fuck did
you know? Like, and I didn't.
Yeah, did you knock her up? I'm going to shoot you. Somerset is pleading with Mills, like, don't shoot him. This is what he wants. He wants Tracy to be envy, and he wants his body to be wrath when you shoot him. Don't give in to him. This is what he wants.
He wins.
So Mills struggles for a second and then unloads 1 round to the head and 5 more to his body.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And
he
my
6.
favorite line in the movie, John C. McGinley up in the helicopter as a SWAT guy goes, oh shit, he shot him. Somebody call somebody. Which
that's protocol.
That's
police protocol.
Which sounds like a stupid line, but it is true. It's fuck. I know this is well above my pay grade, but I don't know. I don't know who I'm supposed to talk to.
Yeah, this scene is probably the finest piece of acting by Brad Pitt throughout the entire film. Just the turmoil in movies. When I watch them, I find pain hits me the most when I see actors and actresses portray them.
This twist ending is what this movie is known for. If you like, I think we told a couple of people that, yep, the next movie is going to be 7.
And they're like, what's in the box?
Yeah. That's how you can tell whether or not somebody has seen this movie, like the ending of Sleepaway Camp, which I hope someday we get to do. So I will not give away the ending of that. Anything else you want to say about this movie before we get into our review and superlatives?
The very ending of the movie is a quote that Somerset says.
Ernest Hemingway once wrote, "The world is a fine place and worth fighting for." I agree with the second part.
And I think that speaks volumes.
So our first superlative is best moment or best kill.
I would have to say the one that sticks with me the most is probably gluttony. Just because I think they really portrayed somebody in lividity. He did look dead.
Lust stuck out the most to me. Like when earlier I talked about my uncle making me watch this. That's the scene I think that would have fucked me up the most, and I'm glad I didn't get to see it.
At 7 years old, you really understood that you know that?
No. No, I think I would have had more questions than, like, because I could understand, like, oh, I stabbed this person to death, but, like, why would...
Why was I stabbing him from my genital area?
Or why would I put that
Okay.
thing... Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I just would have had a lot of questions. So that's the most memorable part to me, but the best moment, I would say, them discussing it in the captain's office with the attorney, the whole deal we talked about.
Yeah, next superlative was best outfit.
Oh, that'd be broadsword strap-on. Mills wears a leather duster a couple times in the movie, which is pretty cool. I don't think I could pull it off myself, but what's your best outfit?
Bam. I think this is a first in Worm's Eye View.
Leather duster?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Wow, it is a first.
There isn't really S-ton to pick from, but I think absolutely that is the coolest.
Best babe. There's
All right,
literally...
so is it me first?
Yeah, there's literally 2 females in this movie. So, do you want the dirty prostitute who you don't really get a look of, or Gwyneth Paltrow?
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, me too.
Another
sausage fest.
Yeah.
After Top Gun.
I know. What's going on here?
Who would you be? Which is a superlative we have regardless of the movie.
I gotta do you.
But I need you to not only answer that question, but then more importantly, which of the 7 deadly sins would you be?
My sin, my absolutely would be lust.
Mr.
Skin.
Yeah, I was
Mr.
gonna
Skin.
say.
And the comforting thing about being lust is that it's the least, in my research, it's the least serious sin of the 7.
Oh, so you get into heaven on technicality?
Maybe. I could maybe talk my way through.
Yeah, or maybe you look... who's at the pearly gate? Is that Peter?
St. Peter.
Yeah, maybe you look him from, like, toe down up to... And you're like,
No.
Give him a little wink, and he's like, all right, you little temptress.
You're evil.
You're equal opportunity, so come on in.
So, lust obviously is intense and unbridled sexual desire. I think all men carry this.
And there's a picture of Tim in there. I do have a question, though.
Yes.
And you're not religious either, so you might not be able to answer this. Does lust count for, like, your wife? Because I know, like, we talk about...
Yes,
like,
it does.
one of the 10 commandments is that
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
Right. But
Yeah.
can you be lustful towards your own wife?
Absolutely.
All right,
So,
I'm out then.
lustful... You're out? What do you mean?
Of the whole religion thing.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you mean? You're out, meaning you don't fit in? Or
Yeah.
It's
bad enough I signed up for one vagina for the rest of my life, and now I'm not allowed to use that one?
I'm not even allowed to lust over that.
Yeah.
So, lust is an overabundance. I'm not religious, but...
I thought that was gluttony.
It is. Gluttony is an overabundance of, to the point of waste. I don't see you as wasting vagina. I just see you as being overabundant with it.
No, maybe you're wasteful with vagina because
I hope I'm not.
Although it's 8 inches deep, you only go 4 inches in.
You shut your face. I really dislike you sometimes. But lust, I think, is absolutely I do lust over my wife more. She pushes me off.
I lust over your wife, too.
And I hope she pushes you off as well. As far as character, it's tough to really pinpoint because I think the 2 main characters, and I think you really brought a good point, that the 2 characters represent 2 spectrums of a job that... can really, at the beginning, you feel very gung-ho and I can make a difference. And then as you work this job, you're like, Jesus, I have no effect on life whatsoever. I think I am Mills and Somerset's unborn child. I think I'm a combination of both. I don't know if I can do that, if that's legal.
Sure. Even though you yell at me when I pick 2 outfits, I'll let you have 2 characters.
Thank you. I think that I'm a combination of both because I think that I've been around the block long enough to realize that I can't make a difference, but I'm young in the profession I do right now to think that I can. How about you? Your deadly sin in your character.
So my character, I think I'm closer to a Somerset now than I
would
am
agree.
a Mills,
I would
which
agree.
I don't think would surprise you. I'm at that point, like we talked about earlier, where this isn't who I am. This is just what I do, and I'm ready to not do this anymore at a certain point. You know, I still come into work and give it my all, but I can't wait until the day where I can ride off in the sunset and go do something else. Not because I don't like my job, but because I just want to do something else.
You're
know,
you. You're
yeah.
you. Things don't define you.
That's right. I could see gluttonous, though.
Why?
Because I do love to drink and eat. And I went to Olive Garden with the wife one night and got some new special that they had. And the waitress comes over and goes, "Oh, wow, I've never seen anybody be able to finish that entire dish before."
And you did.
And I said, "Well, there goes your tip, bitch." But yeah, I polished it off and was like, I could still use a cocktail or a dessert after this. So what would you rate this movie on our burger scale?
I think this is the second time I've seen it start to finish. Although I love the premise, and I think it was a pioneer in terms of serial killer movies. Only three burgers on the scale for me. It lacked the speed. It took a little bit to get into it. So three full burgers is what I would give it.
I agree completely. I gave it a 3 out of 5 as well.
Okay.
And for a lot of the same reason. Once you've seen this once,
the replayability factor is low.
You really don't need to go back to it. And I was telling Tim, because he was texting me throughout the week, and he's like, "Hey, we're recording on Friday." I'm doing the asshole voice with you. "We're recording on Friday. Did you do your homework yet?" And I was at home with our daughter, our 6-week-old daughter. And so I told him, I was like, I got halfway through it. I'll finish it tomorrow. She started being a little needy. But man, that first half, I really did not enjoy it. And I was like, ugh, this is like a punishment. We finally got into a movie I really don't want to watch. I fired it up the next day. And the second half is really much better for this movie. But again, this is not one of those movies that you would watch time and time again, which so far we've done, Halloween and Top Gun. I would watch those movies.
I'd watch them repeatedly.
Yeah. This movie, if you've seen it once, you can probably
good enough.
You could probably go a good 10, 20 years without seeing it again. But if you've never seen it, I would recommend you see it. Hopefully you saw it before we just spoiled the shit out of it. But if not, I think you'd still probably enjoy it. What do you think the Rotten Tomatoes score is?
68?
I think it might be a little bit higher than that. Just because this was pretty innovative. And they did do a good job of casting this. They got, 4 A-list celebrities?
They sure did.
So I would go a little bit higher. I'm going to go 74. 7 is certified fresh at 81%.
Holy cow.
I know. I did not expect it to be that high. Again, it's not about whether or not you would want to rewatch it. It's about whether or not you would enjoy your initial watch and would our wives like it.
You start.
Nope.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
That's all you got?
Yeah. Gore, she's out. Dante, out.
No, I don't think Jill would enjoy this. I love her with all my heart, but she does not see the depth in movies or music that I do. So whereas you and I will see how this is a pioneer in serial killer movies, she'd be like, it's just a dude killing people in a bunch of weird ways. I think she'd watch it. I don't think she'd fall asleep, but I don't think she'd give it a 3. She'd probably give it a 1.
All right, so we have to do a movie from the 2000s, otherwise known as the aughts. And Tim, do you want to spin the wheel to select our genre?
I sure will. Here we go.
Comedy.
All right, perfect.
We're going to spin the wheel again. We picked out 10 comedies from the year 2000s. We have 5 that are ranked well as like our top 5, and we have 5 that are turds.
Turd movies.
So we might get a stinker. So all right, let's
hope we don't get a real turd.
Me too, but let's spin the wheel and figure out which comedy from the aughts we are doing.
All right, here we go.
Epic movie.
Oh no. Yeah.
I think I saw this in theaters.
I don't recall it.
I think I fucking hated it.
I have not seen this.
I'm pretty sure I have. I think this is made by like the same people, not the Wayans brothers because they got rid of them, but this is essentially the same people who did Scary Movie. Scary Movie did slapstick with horror movies, which was good, and then this is about like superhero movies, and I think it's fucking awful if I remember correctly.
Thanks again for listening, folks. We appreciate you. We love you. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. And remember, spread the word, spread the worm. We're here for you. We love you.